All right, what is up, everybody? Shout Scout 0013 here, coming in just to let you know what the giveaway is before we start the video. Today, I know that we are going to talk to you about the new Legion rules and kind of a few different things that we just wanted to touch on that we think that everyone probably is interested in learning about. There's a lot of things that we probably left out for sure, but I think that this is going to be a long video that you can just set aside and not even have to like look at the screen, but just listen to and make it more of a podcast. But I wanted to just go over the giveaway stuff if you are interested. If not, you can look in the description down below for the timestamp of when it starts. But to win a Veers that I'll be giving away soon, and now that you'll have the model, it's going to be nice to be able to play him if you don't have him. But the first way is to be a Discord member. All you have to do is just, click the link down below in the description, join the Discord, and just start chatting away. What I do is I go to the server level and I just pick everybody from the time that the giveaway started, and I just write your name down once you are on here as a part of the raffle. And, we have lots of stuff in here for you to be able to do. Like, if you've got questions about Rebels, if you've got questions about CIS, if you've got questions about GAR and kind of what to do, Shadow Collective, or Empire, which is going to be great, feel free to head on over into here to get the information you're looking for. And the second way to, join up into the giveaway or to get a chance to get entered into the giveaway is to be a member. You don't have to necessarily be a paying member to get entered in, but if you are a paying member, you do get extra entries, and it does help. And lastly, all you have to do is be a YouTube subscriber and leave a comment down below, and that also gets you entered to win. So yeah, guys, enter in to win that Veers, and check in the description down below for the Discord. But yeah, all right, guys, I hope you enjoy the video. All right, what is up, everybody? So, Shell Scout 0013 here, coming in with a panel discussion on all of the new rules updates today, and we'll come out with another video about the new units and other stuff like that. But we wanted to focus on a lot of the rules and the new things that are coming to give you guys an idea of what to expect. And I'm here with Canadian Bear.
What's up?
I'm here with Kyler.
Legion 2.0!
And then I'm also here with Grant.
Kyler was right.
And we have a lot to discuss today, so we can go ahead and jump right through it. I know that I think the biggest things we need to talk about that we were kind of just discussing is cover, and along with that, we can kind of talk about like low profile, we can talk about backup, and Guardian. But let's go ahead and just talk about cover. So obviously heavy and light cover are still here, but now we determine it a lot differently. If any of you would like to take the floor on that.
Random chance.
Yeah. I got it. So for people who've played other games, they will be familiar with maybe the term 6-up save, right? So in other words, you have a 1 in 6 chance, and then you have a 5-up save, your 2 in 6 chance, right? So cover is now basically going to follow this system. It's a chance to save. So when you have light cover, and how do you know if you have light cover? That's changed, right? So now you have to be within 3 inches on a mini-to-mini basis, and half of your models have to be obscured, i.e. drawing a line between your model or base and their model or base in the silhouette, right? And including the silhouette. So mini-to-mini, check them all. Half of them have obscure. Cool, that's a thumbs up. You've passed the first part of having cover. Now you say what type of cover, right? So you talked about it at the beginning of the game, light and heavy, none of that's changed, right? If one of the models had heavy cover, the whole unit gets credit for heavy cover, right? If all models had light cover, if at least half of the models had light cover, then the unit has light cover, and if you don't satisfy that condition, you have no cover. So this is going to make the game a little different than what people have been used to, because you used to basically see a guy from across the table, and there's almost a 100% chance you're going to draw a line through some piece of terrain. and they would get that type of cover, right? And they would get the best version of it, right? Whether it's a barricade or area terrain or whatever, but like, you know, a million miles away, you're gonna shoot, boom, and you're gonna grab cover from something along the way. Now it's only the things that you're 3 inches away from, right? So that's going to be a huge change for a lot of players. It might mean that we get to see some more immersive boards, you know, being created, some more interesting terrain, because modelers and table designers are going to be able to throw some more stuff onto the table and not worry about making everything have cover at every different moment. So that can be, maybe we'll call that a net positive. But maybe as a trade-off, it's going to be a lot of micro measuring, right? A lot of this, you know, and again, because the coherency is now a range 1/2, which is 3 inch. Again, that's another new change from the thing. They now have a half range measuring tool. So realistically, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cohere your guys and grab that tool, and instead of really measuring from the leader and doing your cohesion, you're probably going to want to be using that cohesion tool to measure from terrain, right? So keep them in coherency, but then most of my measurements from now on are going to be between each mini and a piece of terrain, and making sure I'm within 3 inches of pieces of terrain. Okay, so now that we've determined the number of obscured miniatures, we've determined the type of cover, right? So if half had light cover and one guy had heavy cover, my unit has heavy cover. What has changed? Big deal here. You're now going to roll dice. You grab a bunch of white dice equal to the number of hits that the person had in their pool. Not crits. Crits are auto, just like before. So just the number of hits. And let's say the pool had 1 crit and 5 hits, right? I'm going to pick up 5 white dice. And I'm going to roll those 5 white dice. And if I had heavy cover, if I see paint, that's my 5-up save. That's the 2/3 of the hits. Those are going to go away to cover. So realistically, you're going to save probably 2, right? Like if unless you have my white dice, then you save 0. But if you have your white dice, you'll probably save 2. If you have my friend Tyler's white dice, you'll save 4. But but that's going to be how it goes. This is random chance, right? So what we can see here is that they've taken cover, and it's no longer I'm guaranteed to save two blocks. I'm guaranteed 2 blocks. I'm guaranteed 2 blocks, right? Now it's going to be like I hope I get 2 blocks. And of course, when you have small dice pools, maybe you're down to just a unit leader and a heavy or something, and they're throwing 3 dice, and then after rerolls you get only 2 hits. You're probably doing a wound into heavy cover, where old heavy cover you would have probably not gotten any damage because they're going to auto block 2, and you're really just crit fishing. Now they're only going to block, you know, 1 and 3 with heavy cover. So pretty good chance that you're going to make them do a save. So then after the cover has been done and after you've pulled the hits out based off of that white dice roll, then you go to the unit card and you check whatever their saving characteristic is, and then you treat it like normal. So that's the big change, right? So now you have this extra step that you do where you roll the random chance for your cover checks and you pull out the hits based off that. Now, if you have light cover, just again, that is only the blocks. Those are your B1 saves, right? So light cover is B1 saves. Heavy cover is going to be your like rebel veteran saves. So
Now,
that's the big change.
Now, with a unit that has the infantry squad upgrade, they measure the cohesion with range 1 now. How do you think that that's going to affect their cover in a way, too? Do you think it's going to help them get cover more, or what do you think?
It is going to be a net 0 change. So you now have a range 1 cohesion, but you would still treat the first 5 dudes, right, the same. And so what I would recommend players do, you keep that half range tool handy. You do your move of your guys, and then you treat the first 5, which is the normal unit size that we're all used to, right, which is 4 guys and a heavy. You do them and make sure they're all within that half, and then it doesn't matter where the rest of the guys are because half of your guys have the obscuring cover, right? So then you can kind of still put them in, and you can use that extra range. So I think it's going to be like a net 0 change. You just have to be very careful to count like how many guys are there, what's half, and make sure you grab that range 3 tool for the first half of the minis that you place down in Cohere.
Okay. And low profile affects heavy cover too now, right? Or
Low
cover?
profile's busted. Yes,
All
low
right.
profile adds a block straight to the pool. So it's it's really good, right? Because now you still have that random roll, right? Well, sorry. Let me clarify. Low profile will increase your cover, right? So, right. If you had heavy cover, it adds a block. That's new. If you had light cover, it goes to heavy. I believe is the wording. I'm gonna
I think I think the
double check.
wording on it was you roll one less defense die. So like say you get 6 hits that go through, right? Instead of rolling 6 white dice, you're gonna roll 5 white dice and you're gonna count
Right,
the
right, right, right.
6 as an auto save
That's right.
or an auto block.
Yeah. You're correct. Yeah. So in any case, yeah, you're 100% right. So it is take one of the dice, automatically succeed it, and then the rest of them become random. But it's so good. It's so good because it gives you that reliability that we're all used to having from these saves, and then the rest of your dice can still give you those spiky moments where you're rolling a bunch of blocks and I mean we're gonna hear a lot of people I think in the coming weeks here talk about these like really spiked saves, where like, a unit has light cover and blocks 3 dice, gets 3 blocks. B1s have done it. Everyone who's played against a B1 has had that unit with 3 B1s left in the block, right? There's only 3 guys. Okay, cool. I'll just kill this activation out. It's no big deal, right? They're B1s. And then you make them roll 4 saves, and then they're just like, I lose 1 B1.
I will always hold on to my Wookiee save, where I made 5 of 6 saves.
Yeah.
As a little public service announcement, because Kyler and I were talking about this earlier, if you so happen to have bought into Shatterpoint because you wanted to try it out, or you wanted the terrain like me, the range 2 tool is 3 inches, so that is your half range tool in the meantime.
Yes. Yeah. So I too have Shatterpoint core box, and I was almost positive. I didn't bust it out to actually measure it, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a 3-inch tool. And because you're using a lot of in that game you use it a lot for melee, right? You're using it to like see if you're in engagement range. And knowing that it's the same company making these 2 products, I thought, you know what, chances are that's probably what they're going to do. So when they do sell them like for real, they probably already have their manufacturers ready to go to print us some 3-inch plastic measuring tools. So
Oh yeah.
Cool.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is I know a lot of people prior to this change kind of didn't necessarily care for strike teams because of those low amount of dice that you're actually rolling in the attack pool. So now this change to cover does a really interesting dynamic because mathematically, the smaller dice pools are statistically going to do better because instead of just having, firing off some shots in a heavy cover and knowing that, okay, well, I've only got 2 dice, so if neither one of these are a crit, we're just going to be, SOL. Now it's like, all right, well, they're only going to roll these 2 white dice, so I can get a lot more shots through on the smaller pools versus now with, 14 B1s all sending off shots, you have a higher probability of getting some blocks and some saves. So it's an interesting dynamic that's kind of switched from how it used to be.
yeah, there's no more guarantee block. Well, minus low profile. Ewoks are
Right.
feasting. No more guaranteed blocks. Well, actually, wait, that will segue us into the guaranteed blocks that do exist for commanders and operatives, but put a pin in that.
Right.
Yeah, so you're right. The lower dice pools are going to be a lot better than they were previously. They're not better than a large dice pool in terms of statistics because a 1 in 6 is still a 1 in 6, or a 1 in 3 is still a 1 in 3. But when you're comparing it to the guaranteed 1/2, this is infinitely better for those small dice pools. So absolutely a great change for making certain units that maybe were just unpopular because they didn't have a big enough dice pool to matter. They're now going to be a lot more appealing. And so that's I'll call that a net positive. Until I play with it, I'm not going to be sure how I feel about it. But again, my buddy Tyler, he's probably going to be rolling nothing but blocks all day long, and I'll be rolling nothing but blanks all day long, and I'll say that this system is garbage, and and it won't be biased at all.
Right. Now, that also kind of leads me, before we get into backup, about the Sharpshooter and Pierce. So, so Sharpshooter, I'm assuming, is after you roll for cover, it's going to negate one of the paint.
I believe it still works the same way as it did before.
Yeah.
It just changes the type of cover you have.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's still
Okay.
the same. Thankfully.
And then with Pierce, I'm
Which,
assuming,
by the way, we should
it's the same.
mention that the math on that is that it's stronger than it was before. Sharpshooter is now stronger because taking a random pool from blocking 1 and 3 hits, right? You have 9 dice coming in, right? You're going to get 3 blocks, right? So now Sharpshooter is going to take those 9 hits and it's now going to change it to like what they get 1 1/3 blocks now on average, because you're going to be taking, right, because it's for every 6 they're going to block 1, so or 1.5 blocks or something like that. So it's actually going to be more than what it used to be. It used to always be 1. Sharpshooter was removing a 1 rank, right? And against things like I'm thinking of like ARC troopers, right? Like when you're getting the benefit of both, right? Bigger dice pool volume, right? At 2 black per model, and you also now have Sharpshooter. ARC troopers are going to be feeling pretty good when they hit that range 2 band, because they're going to be making you do the high volume save, and they're going to make you have only the saving on 6s, that 1 in 6 chance. So
NBX Commandos, double white, search it.
Yeah. So certain units are definitely going to feel a lot more spiky than they did before.
And in the essence of light cover, I mean, you just took away all of their 1 in 6 chances, right? If it's still operating the same
That's
way
right.
that it was before. So now they're not even getting the opportunity to roll those additional white die.
Yeah, which at light cover is probably going to feel like the old system, because if they were light cover before, you just made them no cover, and so they don't get a
Right.
save. So that's going to feel very samey, but against heavy cover, it's going to feel pretty strong. So again, terrain dependent, table dependent. What are you calling heavy? What are you calling light? I would probably, as a competitive player, probably be pitching for more things being heavy now if I'm running a lot of Sharpshooter in my list, because it's going to benefit me on a net positive, right? And before, people might have been a little bit hesitant to call everything heavy, or a lot of things that were heavy, and certainly this looks heavy, but man, we already have so much heavy terrain on the board, so people would just call things light even though they were kind of on that fence. I think now there's going to be a little bit more of a let me see your list before you agree to whether or not you're going to allow something to be light or heavy. And which again, I don't want people to walk away with this thinking like you need to game the system. That's really not the goal. But I think that now you need to be considering, like, maybe why are they so adamant about making things heavy, or why are they so adamant about making things light, and maybe make some concessions. Say, okay, well, we'll make those barrels because they're a little bit taller. Those can be heavy, but these barrels, they're still light, right? Maybe make some concessions with your table partners. I don't like to call them opponents because we're playing a game, right? So
Yeah.
And
And I think
table partner.
that's to help out the
I think you were breaking up there a
broke
little
up.
cover came out when it was I've got to do it.
You broke up.
Oh, sorry. Passing through good old Texas, guys. Yeah, to where whenever that old update for cover that is now obsolete, to where it's like, oh, well, my lead guy, his big toe is right here by this barricade that's, halfway between your guys and my guys, but it's still in the middle of the field. Like now I'm benefiting from this cover. That was one of the big things that kind of broke the immersion factor. But now going back to, okay, well, you've got to be within the 3 inches, this half range tool, to benefit from it, and to where it's not auto saves. I think that was definitely a big step back in the right direction, to where the last time they hit us with these updates, I know I was griping.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely I call it swings and roundabouts, right? It's going to be a little pro, a little negative, right? There's going to be a world where there's a building between us, right? But it's
Mhm.
halfway. Let's say we're range 3, right? So it's a full range band away from you and a full range band away from me. I can only see 10% of your model, right? But because you're not close to that building, you get no cover from it. So there's going to be weird scenarios where you're not 3 inches away from it, and even though I can only see just a little piece of you, I'm going to just get those clear shots into you. So we're going to have those examples, but like what you're saying, there's also going to be these instances where a barricade is not going to have one pixel covering my toe, and then I'm good, and literally from range 5 away, or something like
Right.
that. So I say a little good, a little bad. You can't make a system that I think works with everything, without also making it slower. And I think this system already has slowed it down a little bit, because you're going to now need to be doing a lot of these 3-inch measurements, where before you didn't do that. You would just move your guys, put them in coherency, and you knew that any line between my guys and your guys is going to pass through this piece of terrain, right? Just generally speaking, it's super
Right.
easy to do that. You could bust out the laser and do it in half a second, right? Now you're going to have to literally go 3-inch, 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 3-inch. And with bigger unit sizes, you're going to need to be doing it with 5 models at least. Or if you're playing B1s, you might have to be doing that for 7 models, right? And measuring 3 inches for 7 models. For I think their unit size can now be 14 max, I think is what
Correct.
I yeah.
Yeah.
So 7, right? So at least half, right? So there's gonna be a lot of micro measurements, and depending on, I mean, goodness gracious, if I get paired up against somebody who's running 6 full double packs of B1s, um, you know what? I might just say, hey, you know what? Don't even measure the 3. You got it, bro. You got it, buddy. You got it. It's fine. It's fine. Just shove them in.
And now with
And also
cohesion,
because the cohesion is range 1 and range 2 for orders bouncing from B1s and stuff. There's really not as big of a reason to be spreading your guys out anymore.
yeah, and they have to have line of sight to the unit leader during cohesion, so you can't just wrap somebody around a corner and not be able to see your unit leader anymore.
Why'd you bring up the bad thing? You're gonna make me start ranting again.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like it. I don't like it. They shouldn't have changed that. Um, yeah, it's yet another thing that you have to kind of watch out for. For those listening that don't know, you have to have line of sight of your unit leader with the whole unit. What this means is you can't wrap a building, go around a 90-degree bend on a building and have some of your guys behind it to reduce the incoming shot potential, right? Like if I want to swing out a unit leader and a heavy around a building and shoot and keep a couple guys behind the building so that if they get return fire, I'm limiting the number of allocatable wounds, right? Because you can only deal enough wounds equal to the number of guys you can see, right? That used to be a nice way that you could keep your unit relatively safe, right? And you can't do that anymore. They have to be able to see the unit leader, which means they probably also are going to be seen by the enemy, and they're going to be shot as well. So again, from a competitive standpoint, kind of a negative. And the scenario that is no longer going to be viable is there were oftentimes pieces of terrain which were rocks and structures that are somewhat cylindrical in shape, right? And you might make them a key position. And one of the things that people like to do, if they're being very careful, is they will take their unit leader, they will run it over in base contact with the key position, and they will cohere all of their minis around the feature to block off using their bases, so that other models on the enemy team can't base the key position. They'd have to run into an engagement, and that's not what they want to do. They want to touch the point. Now, because you can't wrap your minis around that cylindrical piece of terrain, unless it's short, obviously, and you can see over it. But most likely, you know, we're talking about rocks and things that are large. That just means you can't do that. You have to keep all your guys being able to see the unit leader. So some very clever competitive plays have just been completely removed from the game with this change. I don't think I see yet the reason why it was added. Like, I don't see the gain. It just removes a feature of play, right? A layer of tactical change. I think it's just a straight removal of that. And I'm not sure what the gain is. If people can figure one out, I'm happy to hear about it. But you know, that's that's been one gripe that I had. It's really just that and transports. I mean, those are the two that I'll die on those hills. I think those are the two changes that I don't like.
Well, I know that we're going to talk about transport in just a second, but just for the last little bit of cover and all that stuff, we have something new called backup, and Guardian has now been changed. Now, with backup, sadly, now you can't use that on the Bad Batch, even though they're an operative. I think that might be the only operative you can't use backup on. But the new rules now, you can cancel 2 hits if you have a core unit that is not suppressed next to your within, I think, 3 inches of your commander and or operatives.
Yep.
And that is
they removed heavy cover and they added it back.
Yeah. So, and can you explain now the timing of when you're going to cancel those 2 hits for backup?
Right. So that happens during the same you know, the applied dodge cover. I guess it's just dodge cover and backup. Right, so you do all your cover checks, get those out of the way, you roll all those blocks, and then you basically get to pull out two more hits from backup.
Wait, that's before you roll for the blocks, though, right?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. So if you
I'm
had
gonna
like,
double check.
Yeah, so if you had like a crit and 5 hits, and you have backup, you don't have to roll
33.
those extra 2.
It's during the modify attack dice step.
Right. So you've already actually, if it's modified attack dice step, then that would be pre saving throws. So
right.
you basically pulling out you're pulling out hits. So it's heavy. It's the old heavy cover. It's sort of like what I described. So you're going to in the same example that I used before, a crit and 5 hits come through. If it's into your operative and that operative is next to a non-suppressed core unit, they'll get backup. They will get the benefit of taking 2 hits out of the pool, and then you determine whether or not your operative has cover, and then you roll your cover save, and then after your cover save, whatever hits are still left in the pool, then you roll your saves.
Now let's add a little nuance to that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in the future, in case it ever happens, since we have riding heroes coming in at some point in, like, 2026, if we get commanders and operatives and they don't get backup benefits, if they have the armor keyword, the impact would happen before you do the backup. Because the attacker does their modifies, and then the defender does their modifies to the attacking pool.
Oh wait, hold on. I may have misspoke. Modify attack dice happens right before roll defense dice, but after dodge and cover. So you actually do get to do your dodge cover save first against the full big pool, and then you do the modified attack dice step, and you pull out for backup. If it is indeed in the modify attack dice step, which is crazy because that means that you get the benefit of the bulk of the number of dice, right? The full volume of the dice to get your chances to do the cover save, and then you do the guaranteed pulling out hits from the modifying attack dice.
And then what about Guardian on top of that? So when will
Guardian will still occur as a separate step before you got into all of that. So like you would do your Guardian, and then you say, okay, I've resolved my Guardian. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do my dodge cover, modify, etc. So yeah, there's going to be a world where you have a Guardian 2 guy in that same example with 5 hits. You can Guardian 2 out of the pool, then you roll your 3, you get a block, and then you do the backup, and you've got nothing left. So 5 hits just, pooh, gone.
Oh no, it's in the same step as whatchamacallit, as backup. It's attack, modify attack dice step for Guardian. So
Well,
it's
okay,
cover and dodge.
I guess I've always done it in the wrong order. I always just did my backups first, or sorry, my guardians first, because but that might just be a more of a speed thing. It changes nothing in reality.
So
I
yeah.
might be over like hand waving about it, but like it shouldn't charge anything. Like the guardian is going to be guardianing, right? Like that's like a known, like, you know, those saves are going to be known. I do know that you should be doing the guardian before you're rolling your saves though, and the big reason why you always want to do that, and even in a tournament type play, is because of Pierce, right? Because the person who's doing Pierce has to determine whether they're piercing the Guardian pool first, and that takes the Pierce away from the other pool if they've already used it. So you always want to make them roll those Guardian saves first, because if you get a bunch of good blocks in the Guardian, the person's like thinking and they're looking at that pool and they're going, ooh, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pierce it now because, you know, they see that they have an opportunity to maybe kill a model, right, or something. So, and it keeps your commanders more safe.
And then lastly, I know that a big change with Retinue is that Retinue, like if for Rook, I know Rook cast is in a special forces, she can actually use backup for Maul because Retinue doesn't care about the core requirement anymore.
Let's be real. That's not the model that people are going to be abusing the system with.
Yeah.
Hey, I might. I love Rook. I love my
Do
Mandalorians.
we want to talk about Dark Troopers real quick?
No.
Well, yeah. So I
No.
wanted to get into transport as well, but let's get Go ahead. Yeah, actually, because they have Retinue with
Moff
Gideon.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to explain a little bit of that real quick, because obviously they have the keyword where they can ignore the backup requirements and back up Moff Gideon, I guess.
Program loyalty. Yeah. That gives them the retinue. So they'll be ignoring the requirement. So they give backup to Moff Gideon, right? And Dark Troopers are unsuppressible. So the one thing that you kind of have with the backup mechanic that keeps it sort of in check is that you can just shoot the core until they get suppressed, and then you can shoot the operative or the commander. Well, not Dark Troopers. Nope, they don't get suppressed. Nope. So backup forever.
Well,
Time to start getting some Dark Troopers.
Yeah. You've also got the Imperial Royal Guard for Palpatine. They can block 2 with backup and then Guardian on top of that.
Yeah.
Just in one unit.
Yeah. Yep. Courage 2 as well. So, you know, just it's even, you know.
There's no rule about using Guardian and melee and backup.
There is. You cannot back up a person with Guardian like on their card. So Obi-Wan Kenobi cannot be backupped, right? Or rip Obi-Wan. You got a points drop, and I thought, oh, this is his day. This is his day. We're finally gonna see Obi-Wan more. No, we're not, because you're not gonna back him up, and you are gonna back up Anakin. So, yeah. Unless you're taking both. I mean, I guess we got extra points. So maybe you're taking Obi and Annie, and in the same list.
But can Obi-Wan now be the backup?
He can Guardian for Anakin and then the core can back up for Anakin. Yes, that stacks. But like you cannot back up for Obi-Wan Kenobi because he has Guardian on his card.
But can he be the backup? Instead of using Guardian?
He won't have retinue with anybody, to my knowledge.
Right. What did I is it? No, it's not. There was something. No. I think there was something where he could be the person backing up something. Hold on. Well, I'll try to find it real fast. Because I think I saw this.
Yes,
actually.
yeah, no,
Basically,
he can.
Obi-Wan wants to make sure that Boyle is right there with him at all times.
Obi-Wan
Where was
can
that?
use backup on Anakin. And
Yes.
so at the very end of Guardian X, it says, additionally, a unit with the Guardian X keyword cannot benefit from backup and ignores the core rank requirement to provide backup.
So he can just cancel 2 hits
Oh,
basically now.
that's what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
you're Obi-Wan giving backup. Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Which
Which
again
also-
is another great reason to run Yoda Chewbacca.
Yep.
Because he's just going to be
So-
able to Guardian and do a bunch of stuff now.
Yep. Yeah, size matters sometimes. I have red save 9 HP, plus I get to use Yoda's Deflect, which doesn't require dodges anymore. So now Chewbacca is 9 health of red surging saves that are auto deflect on. And if you shoot Yoda instead, well, he's just going to Guardian and back him up. So, and again,
Jeez.
you got Deflect automatically all the time. So that's cool.
That's net
Yeah, it's going to
positive.
take. Yeah, it's going to take some time to get used to that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Obi-Wan, real quick, I didn't realize that Soriso, unlike
reroll.
Gemso, does not work in melee. Because Gemso still works in melee.
No, Demso only works in melee now.
No, yeah, that's what I mean, but it still works in melee. But it's...
Sure. That's
Soriso
right.
used to, and now it doesn't.
Yeah.
It only doubles down on the range. And
Right.
lets you reroll dice.
Which I think is sort of fair because it's also really, really strong. So one of the things that Obi-Wan players would probably have had a complaint about in the past is that small dice pools suck, right? Because you're going to Guardian like 1, right? And of course, you're like, all right, well, it's fine. It's just 1 die, right? Fail. You fail. You always fail the 1 save, right? If you rolled 5 dice, you're gonna get the statistical averages or whatever, and it's gonna feel good. But when you roll the 1 save, you fail it 100% of the time, right? 60% of the time, you fail it 100% of the time. Uh, and new Sorizu just says you get 2 chances, right? Now, do be careful. It does say all dice, so so if you roll like 5 saves and you get 4 blocks, keep that. You don't get to re-roll the fail. You roll the whole set again, and it could get worse, right? So what you're really going to want to use it on is a lot of those guardians where you're gardening 2 out of a pool, and you got surging saves against those. So most of the time you're going to block 1 and fail 1. Well, go ahead and pick it up, because if you blocked 1 and failed 1 and then you roll it again, you're probably going to see 2 blocks. I mean, again, because it's 66% chance to block on each of those. So the world where your 1 block 1 fail gets worse is incredibly small. The world where the 1 block 1 fail is the same or better is very high. So Sorizu is very good on Guardian 1, Guardian 2 pools.
Now,
And somebody who's more mathy out there can actually give us the real net positive to it. I know it's better, I just don't know by how much.
And then we also had a change to Deflect itself. And so Deflect is now
Yeah.
just automatic at range. You just gain Surge to block no matter what. So, and you don't even have to spend a dodge token anymore, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's the complaint that I have with like Commander Vader right now, where you have backup plus Guardian plus auto deflect on 8 health, and gets like all the benefits and takes basically none of the negatives whatsoever. Commander Vader or Operative Vader, really. Operative Vader at least can get suppression, so therefore he can get heavy cover more frequently. If he's taking a suppression. But Commander Vader, he doesn't get suppression, so a lot of times he's gonna have those like light cover saves or whatever. But as opposed to heavy, but it kind of fixes that, right? So that used to be kind of the thing where like, he only ever really gets light cover. It's only ever really going to be 1 block. Well, now you have the RNG of spiking some good saves and then pulling out a whole bunch of Guardian and block, backup out of the pool. So it's like you have to get like 5 hits onto Vader before he can even have to maybe possibly roll at all. on average. You're at like the 5, 6, 7 dice range, like in the pool to make a Commander Vader actually have to pay attention. So he's going to be real hard to kill.
So you're
And
telling
again,
me
you
to
know,
just play
auto
Empire.
deflect.
So now I'm just playing Empire.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. Like Dark Troopers, funny enough, are going to be very good into that. So Empire on Empire, maybe a little Civil War action going on because Dark Troopers give the big pool of dice, so maybe they're good into Vader. And also, you have a ton of activations of those big dice pools. But
So the other fun thing with that too now is the rework of Fear and Dead Man, to where during that round, if someone attacks Vader and it's resolved and Vader takes a wound, well then that unit also is taking a wound.
did they change Fear and Deadman? I didn't look at that.
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the way that it reads is after attacking against Darth Vader is resolved this round, the attacking unit suffers 1 wound for each wound that Darth Vader suffered during that attack.
Interesting.
And then you
So
just
that
use medbots.
definitely. Yeah. With our extra 200 points, maybe we just add all medbots. Infinite health Darth Vader, let's go!
Let a tank be a tank.
I misread Gemso also the first time I looked at it. I thought Anakin had to fail a roll. If the attacker fails, rolls a blank. They suffer a wound.
Which actually makes him worse into other Jedi. Because red dice are fairly reliable.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have very few instances where he fails a roll with like a big red dice pack.
Yeah.
But into smaller things, like if you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna charge these I don't know who's got charged now, like riot troopers and snow troopers or something, like some of these other troopers or whatever. They roll
Elite
white
troopers.
dice. Yeah, they roll white dice. Fleet troopers, they all roll white dice. And heck, even if you had black dice in melee, you're definitely seeing a blank. Let's all be real. So, and it's free now too. Again, DMSO doesn't require you to dodge, does it? It's,
Nope.
I believe it's free.
Just
Yeah.
there.
So that's gonna be very, very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. The most feared unit for Anakin, even more so now, is Black Sun, because they roll red attack dice in melee.
Yeah.
There is no safe place from Black Sun for Anakin.
Good. Do it.
And speaking of Black Sun, now we've got the changes to transport and all of that stuff. So if we want to transition real quick into the deployment stuff where you can scouting or doing the reinforcements, transport, infiltrate. Let's go ahead and kind of talk about transport first. So anyone want to take that away real quick?
Sure. So transports. Yep, they deploy. They do their first move. Or do they even do a move, or do they just touch the board?
The first
No,
action
they can do a
on a
move.
deploy is a move, and then you disembark,
Okay.
and then
So
they
do a
can do
move.
their other moves.
Then you give a unit an order, and they disembark. But they changed disembark as well, so you now put the movement tool touching the bus or lat, because those are the only 2 transports now, and do not place a mini touching the transport. You put the range or the movement tool touching the transport, then you do your speed 1 move. And then you continue on with your transport activation. So you no longer get to hide things one way or the other.
Is Gav not a transport anymore?
Or no, it is. Sorry, yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
And the snail too.
There's 1 transport per faction now, I believe, is the way it's. They were. I think that was an intentional change, like just kind of like.
Empire, they have 2.
Yeah, because then
because
have
they
the
also
Gav
get the
and
lat.
the lat.
Yeah, I guess they get the All right, but
Which-
everybody does have access to 1, which is the important part. The obviously the big to me the big change is that you used to bring the speeder truck because you were playing Black Suns and you have somebody, you're gonna keep them in there for a little while and you're gonna run it up the board, and at some point you're going to deliver a world of pain, into your opponent's lines, right? That's just not a thing anymore. Being able to deploy with the AA truck is going to be kind of like a Scout 4. I mean, I don't know the number of inches exactly, but I think somebody did the homework already and posted some screenshots, and it's something like it's actually even better than that, because it's like the range one tool is like 3 inches long, plus the base of the AA truck um is like 8 inches long, and don't quote me here, guys, right? Go look it up, but roughly, and then if you did from the tip of the bus, you could do another 3 inches and then put your guy, so you get 3 is 6, 8, and that's like 14 inches, which compare that to like a Scout 3, which is like 8 inches. That's huge, right? Like that's an incredible forward deploy possibility. The problem is under this new system, that's a forward deploy that potentially just dumps your guy out in the middle of like the open, and then every activation thereafter is going to just shoot your guy up. So I mean, and if you're dumping them off, maybe the table terrain provides you some cover that you can dump them off and do the speed 1 behind a piece of cover, and that's cool. But then I might beg the question, well, was the truck necessary to do that, or could you have just double moved on your first turn, right? You know, I especially if you have like Scout 1 on your unit, you do a Scout 1 and then double move, and you're basically moving the exact same, and you didn't spend the 90 something points for the truck that then doesn't do much else the rest of the game. And I think Reckless Driver is out. He's no longer a thing.
Correct.
That's which I could have argued like, okay, the truck still has value because Reckless Driver does Reckless Driver things, and that's cool. But yeah, I'm not really sure what you're doing with the truck now that after it dropped off your units. So that's
It is only 65 points now. Also.
yeah, but it's like 65 points. Well, okay, Scout 1 is 5 points. So what's the 60
At
points
least for the
getting you?
bus, 65 points for a wall.
Yeah, 65 points for a wall is a good way to that is a very
A
good
wall
way
that you
to
can
put
put a
it.
medic into.
Yeah.
And
The medic
real-
upgrade on the bus is still decent. I mean, and with armor 5, it's still effectively full armor. Like if we're being honest with ourselves, like that's still effect. It doesn't get. Oh, I guess we should have wrote back around. Vehicles and speeders and all that, they don't get cover at all. Full stop. There's no more half of the silhouette, et cetera, et cetera. It's just got like they just don't get it. So
They
the
only have
AA5
cover
truck
X.
having armor 5 is pretty big deal. That's still really good. Gonna block most of your hits, and because there's no more fire support in the game, there's no way to really like over dice this to try to get around that. And you could say, well, oh, bring some impact. Well, it's like, okay, well, if you brought some impact, those are gonna take hits out of your pool too, right? Because the impacts convert them to crits. So what's the chances that you had more than 5 hits and also some impact? Probably 0, right? Like if we're being completely honest. So impact is still going to work great against vehicles in small pools, in small amounts, right? So if you have like, let's say you have a split fire RPS, great into vehicles, right? Because you just take the RPS, you're probably only getting 2 hits on the red and the black. You're going to convert those over to crits. Impact 2, great. Truck's rolling some dice. And then you have your other shots, because small dice pools are more valuable, your split fire is also more, I guess, well, that's probably worth saying. I can't believe I didn't say it before, but split firing is now more valuable, right? So you can use the relevant weapon for impact into the AA5, and then you can use your small dice pool into a unit that maybe has light cover, and knowing that you're going to get almost all of the value of those dice.
It is also worth noting that there's 2 things. The Rebel version of the speeder truck or potentially the Rebel version of the speeder truck and buff lats are the most defensible armor pieces now, because the speeder truck is able to gain cover 1 from a pilot upgrade, and the lats both start with cover 1, so you have to get 7 hits before you get past, or possibly 7 hits before you can have them actually roll defense dice, because, or actually, no, it's even more than that, because if you're rolling, if you roll only 6, you're likely going to block 1 on light cover, which then brings you down to 5, which then means armor blocks the 5 remaining hits.
And at that point, when we're talking about the odds, it's almost guaranteed that your opponent is only making you roll the 1 save because they got a single crit somewhere in there. Like really realistically, armor 5 is still very much full armor. So for people who saw that and thought that their armor guys got nerfed, I assure you they did not. In fact, even armor 3, which is on things like the ATRT, for clones, it's now red saves with armor, and like that is way more durable than it used to be, because any amount of impact in the list would just basically shred ATRTs. Now they've got red saves to get around those small dice pool impact shots and stuff. So
Yeah,
armor is
Darks
still very much a
also
thing.
armor
3 on
Darks
Dark
went
Troopers,
to
yeah.
3. Yep.
Yeah, which is again, pretty freaking good. I guess there's a world where somebody's bringing 10-man bricks of clones, and Dark Troopers have to maybe think about that a little bit more than they did in the past. But they're both it's red saves and red saves. Yeah.
The other thing that's worth noting when it comes to vehicles is the reason why Reckless Driver is no longer viable is vehicles are not allowed to displace anymore. So, yeah, make sure you check your movements. But also, notch base units.
Well,
when
they can
move
through everything, right?
They can still
They
move
just-
through everything, but
yeah.
they can't finish touching anything.
Right.
There's no more displacement at all.
Right.
But also, notch base miniatures can do a 90-degree pivot before they move now. So if they're not
Except for Speeder X.
yeah.
Because bikes are not allowed to do donuts.
Yep.
And now
So
bikes only have cover 1, and that's it forever.
Yeah. For 80 points, you have white saves, cover 1. Good luck.
I will say
Blizzard Force. Tell me they wanted to take out Blizzard Force without telling me they wanted to take out Blizzard Force.
Yeah. Also, on the Blizzard Force thing, the unrelenting fire to where it's like they got rid of, okay, nothing can be removed, to where it's like, okay, well, only 1 suppression can be removed. I was like, that one, minor thing, not necessarily a huge thing, but I guess the one silver lining I will say on the transport thing, and it might kind of transition us into a new direction, is kind of like Kyler was saying before, as far as like the impact of now having these set POI positions as far as scoring. I don't know on the lat, but I know on the bus, I think the math is if you deploy like a speed 2 unit, then I think if you double move that unit, you can cover potentially like 25 or 26 inches on the board. And with, well, deployment zones now being territory and all that jazz, but to go on the one kind of deployment we were saying was kind of odd is the not so disarray, to where they have that one center point POI. That's a good way to catapult that unit and get it right there and kind of claim that center objective a little bit quicker than the other guy could. But that is a very thin and frail silver lining on the transport situation.
Yeah, it does beg some questions as to like whether or not a unit is going to be able to survive that. If you look at shifting priorities, it's on the center line for 3 of them. So a transport will allow you to basically get them into position on turn 1,
Right.
which you can't do that with just a double move. You would be a little bit shy, not like a ton. You'd be just a little bit shy of being in range. You certainly would be in range after another move, so like your 3rd move, right? Because and again, bringing up more topics, you now don't have to put the notch of the base inside of both ends of the movement tool for standard moves. You can touch any part of the tool, and what that means is that you now can touch just the little tips of the half circle on the ends of our movement tools, meaning that you get an extra millimeter of movement, meaning a speed to move is now a full 6 inches. And because it is a full 6 inches, you now see the ability to, oh, you shot me at range 3, exactly range 3. Okay, well, I'm going to move and shoot you exactly range 2. Like, that's now a thing that can be done. Previously couldn't be done. Again, assuming you can draw a straight line and terrain and other things don't interrupt that type of movement, but that's now a thing. It's also relevant, I guess, for charge and such. But yeah, so looking back at the objective locations, shifting priorities, intercept signals, the one that you mentioned, close the pocket, those are 3. So half of the what are these? I guess these are still called objectives, right?
They're
So
POIs, points of interest.
mission, yeah, the half of the mission's points of interest have the point of interest on the center line at the range 3 into the board. So transports are definitely going to be usable there. Another thing to note, and this is something that's maybe not people aren't really thinking about, it only requires the movement tool to be against the edge of the deployment zone. But you can bend the tool out of the deployment zone. So keep that in mind for when you're playing certain objectives. You can take the tool, put it so that the prongs are flat against the thing, and then bend it 90 degrees and deploy and do that first move and already be outside of the deployment area. Or the, what are they calling it now? It's not deployment area, it's the territory.
Territory.
Yeah, territory.
Yeah, so you can actually use that same thing with the the bus, like the A. So look at breakthrough, right? Which is not old breakthrough, new breakthrough. New breakthrough, if you put your tool on, let's say I'm red, right? And you put it at the very, 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 very top of the long edge, and you bend it 45 degrees pointing at blue's area, that AA5 is going to be pretty much like already halfway between your two territories. And then you get the speed one on top of that. You're almost deploying in your opponent's territory at that point. So definitely with certain vehicles and transports, you're going to be able to do some wacky shenanigans with deploy. And so that's probably why they decided that they were not going to allow commanders and operatives to be transported anymore. It's just core and special forces. But arcs have 2 black dice in melee, and they can jump out of a truck. So, or not a truck, a lat. I mean, maybe that's good. I don't know.
Well,
it's one of those things. I think when it works, it's gonna be crazy, and when it doesn't work, you're just like, oh, I brought a lot of points to do this, and it didn't do anything.
yeah, and I want to talk about the objectives in just a little bit. But first, so real quick on the scouts, like whenever you're scouting and then doing a move. So I guess your first action has to be a move after that. If you don't have scout and you do have tactical,
you don't have to do an action if you scout. That's the benefit of scout. You don't have to do your first action as a move action. You scout into the board, and then you can do whatever you want.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Same thing with infiltrate. Same thing with infiltrate. Or what's the other one? The one that I always say wrong.
I think.
Prepared positions.
Yeah, all 3 of those function similarly. They give you something to do before deployment, either during or before your unit has to walk on. That either stops them from having to walk on or entirely, right? With like prepared positions, they don't walk on at all. They start in your territory. Infiltrate, you kind of just plop them in your zone somewhere, and then they do whatever they're going to do. Or scout, yeah, you just get that free speed X move, and then you're doing whatever you want.
And then,
which is a big deal, I think.
No, yeah. Did you have anything to add? You were going to do?
One of the things I was going to talk about would be the some important notes when it comes to objectives, because those have changed drastically, and I'm not talking about how you choose them or what's on the cards. So, objective tokens, we used to have 3D models. They are now essentially 2D tokens, and they count as a 3-inch high area terrain that grants heavy cover.
Mm-hmm.
Also, objective tokens, they've changed how you can place them because they're in fixed positions. So they, like always, they can't be on impassable terrain, but they can be overlapping area terrain. They just can't be hanging off of it. And they can be on obstacle terrain that is height 1. So if you have big height, like wide height 1 buildings, that can get really awkward. So watch out for that.
Yeah, I think our table builders are gonna be like, I
Touching
feel
our heads.
bad. I almost feel bad because you can't cover all of these. Like if you were to, what I want to see someone do is someone grab Photoshop and do like an opacity thing where they take the layouts of all the points of interest and make one map that just has all the points of interest on them, right? So that we, so, you know, so like you take shifting priorities and you put the points of interest, and then you take recover and you put those dots and you put them where they're supposed to be. I sort of like mentally visualized it, but there is literally nowhere safe. There's nowhere safe to put a building. Like what? Like if you put a building somewhere on the map, there's likely going to be one of these different objectives is going to be either partially on it or on it. Sorry, to derail. I know we'll talk about missions and stuff more, but yeah, the table designers are going to be in a world of trouble to like come up with balanced boards that hopefully still have some um fairness built in, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want. I mean, I like asymmetrical boards, but I still want them to be fair. So maybe that's
Which
an
is
important step
ironic
of the banning
because
phase. I don't know.
yeah, it's ironic because during the stream, that was one of their big points behind like the new objectives and POIs was the fact that it was supposed to allow for more creative freedom when setting up a table and the terrain
Thematic
to where it's
tables.
not a mirrored image.
I
Theme.
think that's true if you know the objective and you're building the table saying, okay, we're going to be, today we're playing intercept signals, right? Certainly, I'm with you there. So
No,
from
right.
a non-tournament perspective, absolute non-tournament, absolutely, you can make some crazy cool tables, and have a ton of fun. From a competitive standpoint, we're going to be bringing decks and we're going to be banning, and I'm going to be trying to play to win. And then we walk over to the table, and I realize that, I literally cannot touch the point without going massively around this building or something because the table, whatever. And you could argue, well, then you should have taken blue player, right? Because blue player picks table edge now.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but that sucks for somebody, and
Yeah.
that the table designer probably didn't expect that to just be the case. Like I don't think that anybody builds a table and has the intention going like, oh, whoever gets red player is gonna hate this table, like nobody's saying that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing. I'm wondering if maybe the community can come together and solve some of these problems, like where like TOs can come by and you can maybe do a judge call and be like, hey, we got this objective and this is the case. There's some rules in there about like if it's on a height 2 thing, it can't be. So then you put it like nearest it could be, and like it tells you how to move a token if it can't be placed. But then that's going to get into some really heated and debated arguments with players for how well this is the closest spot, but maybe it's a little closer to me than it was to you before.
Right.
Something like that.
I wonder if they would have set tables because I know even though like whenever I'm playing casual games with friends, I make sure that the table is set up before anybody gets there because I don't want to have to spend that much extra time as a group sitting there and deciding, okay, well maybe this looks better or maybe that one looks better. Like I try to set it up more so like it is where the tournaments where it's like, no, this is the table. We're going to decide everything after the fact. So I'm curious to see, which realistically, I don't think that's a very feasible thing to where it's like, all right, well, we've got 2 tables set up for this objective, or we've got 2 tables set up for this different one over here.
Don't think that could happen in a tournament.
Correct.
So that's why I say it's a problem for the table people to design, and maybe they're going to come out and somebody who builds a lot more tables is going to go like, no, this is great and I love it, and they're going to be able to come up with some like template that you can use that catches all the best, like it could be a solvable problem, because that is one of the big differences, is that these objectives are fixed. So that's in some senses a puzzle, right? Somebody could break the puzzle and come up with a template and say, hey, for TOs, using this template, put pieces of terrain that are about this size in these positions, and that's going to always be fair. I hope that's the case for tournament play.
And so I do want to talk about objectives real quick, though. I was just going to mention that there are new squad leaders, especially for Republic, and I don't know if it's for CIS as well. But Fives is going to be able to fit in something different. Boyle is going to be able to fit in a little bit differently. So the way that you structure your core is going to be way different, and even your arcs, because now your arcs can have a squad leader as well. And that was something I wanted to mention real quick. And then I think that was, just a few changes to, like you said, Sorosu and Dimso. But I do want to try to mention a few of the objectives and kind of what type of list is going to be great for those objectives. And we were just mentioning that a lot of them are fixed objectives. Like the main ones, like we said, like breakthrough,
All 6.
bunker. Yeah.
They're all 6 are fixed. It's just that unless you want to talk about the shifting priorities, that's the only one where the points of interest move.
Well, yeah. So I do want to talk about them and kind of which ones are going to be best for gun lines or stationary, and then which ones are going to be better for moving, and or if there are any good for stationary. So like I kind of want to take the objectives and kind of categorize them into the best for different types or archetypes of lists. So we can start with the first page of shifting priorities, recover the research, and intercept signals. Do you guys have an idea of what type of list is going to be great for each individual one?
Sure. So shifting priorities, you're going to want to be a durable list. So you're a la Dark Troopers, march up the board and shoot and that type of thing. Because whoever owns the center is going to have a massive advantage. Because your priorities shift, and the idea is that as the person who owns it, the opponent is who moves the token, right? Arranged 3 inches. So what we likely expect is, if you're fighting over the middle, the outer nodes are likely going to be shifting towards the board wall, like the short edge walls, and moving away from the middle token, while whoever owns the middle, that token is probably going to be moving closer to the opponent's other priorities. But if you're doing it well, you're also moving those priorities away. So it's just kind of like they're drifting apart, if you think of it that way, right? The priorities the middle one and then the bottom or the other two are going to be drifting apart. So having someone who can control it early is going to be very important, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab it early. That's going to give you your lead, and then you're going to bunker down, and you're going to just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And now you take that lead and you just lay into the opponent. So that's going to be I think how shifting priorities is going to play out a lot of times, right? Because if you're a melee army, those shifting priorities, you could be shifting them closer to you and stuff, but your opponent could just play the range game and keep drifting the priority in a position where they can just keep you from being able to score it and also get into melee and tie you up. So I think the durable gun lines are going to be the play for shifting priorities. And I think the same is true for recover.
So with shifting priorities, you're just trying to shift it away from your opponent each round after round 2. You're not necessarily trying to get it into your territory.
I wouldn't say so. You're trying to get it into your territory. Again, you could do that. Like where it shifts is 3 inches in any direction. Very likely, what we're going to see is that if we're looking at it, right, and this is laid out vertically right now. I don't know if you have the PDF open, the center node, if I control the middle one and the bottom two, my opponent is going to want to have my bottom nodes drifting away from the middle, right, to split my forces. And they're going to have the middle node, they're going to probably want to move it, either left, right, or up towards their nodes, the ones that they control in the top, right? Because they're going to want to condense their area of control and keep their guys all within range 2, and do exemplar and all sorts of like range 2 tricks, which a lot of the range bands for the game have increased to range 2. So they're going to be wanting to kind of scrunch it up there, and you're going to want to be durable because you're going to need because those bottom points, your opponent's probably going to drift them away. And so your army is going to become more and more and more split. And if you count the number of range bands, there's almost like no world where after they've drifted one time, there's nobody except for infinite range units, nobody's going to be able to shoot like 2 objectives away. So we're going to see we're going to see the armies that have the most durable can sit in the middle and just kind of like soak up some early advantage points. That's going to be a really big key, I think. Melee armies may struggle there unless you play incredibly aggressive as a melee army, in which case you just get peppered to death, and then I think that rounds 4 and 5 your opponent just kind of takes over.
Right,
that's why I think it's going to be good for gun lines, and that same for recover the research. I think that's going to be really good for gun lines. You can secure a triangle position, right, and just grab 3 nodes, you probably don't want to spread your forces thin and go even though you have 3 nodes that are very close to one another. I think that like grabbing maybe like a triangle position and like getting all your forces kind of in range 2 of each other, share tokens, do kinds of things. I think you're gonna then want to gun line down that enemy node that's closest to your triangle, and then and that's going to be pretty strong. And I think I think we're going to see a lot of gun lines there too.
And then with the intercept signals,
that one I think I would like to be playing melee, because I need to get into my opponent's territory. And the best way to do that is to charge into his units along the way and shred up what's there, and then grab my opponent's territory's base.
And then with breakthrough,
I think the jury's out. You want to get into your opponent's territory, sure, but your opponent can just kind of dodge you and go to the other end of the board and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I feel like breakthrough.
Oh, we lost him.
So like that's something I would say. Oh,
Yeah, you're breaking up again, right?
yeah. Let's see. Good old
He's back.
Houston, guys. So let's see here.
I think it's better.
Getting there.
yeah, because I know that you said transport's going to be good too, and breakthrough, at least to get you.
I think in
somewhat
breakthrough
to the edge.
specifically, in breakthrough, transports are going to feel very good, because you want to get into your opponent's deployment area as quickly as possible. And I think depending on what units you do, your opponent, like if you're playing a melee focused or like a short range army, I mean, if they deploy in their territory and you deploy in your territory, you're already shooting round 1. I mean, like it's an incredibly aggressive deployment. They're very close. Bunker assault, another melee feasting. Like you wanna get to your opponent's bunkers and like dunk. I guess I call it dunk. Like the whole like special rule thing. Like you want to get your commanders and operatives to like run over to their base and dunk them, to like give you extra points and stuff. For each bunker they control, one guy is contesting and place additional wounds on the bunker. The bunker has 3 or more wounds, it's destroyed and removed from the battlefield. So it's like, it's gonna be pretty good to like, have your guys like run over there and just like boom, just destroy the bunkers. And
I think specifically that would be better. It's best for rebel melee, specifically Ewoks and Tauntauns.
Oh yeah, Ewoks are gonna be nasty on that. They're gonna they just line up and they just like charge all like like a line of sea of Ewoks.
Just because with the Wookiee battle force, the melee skew, it's all special forces. So you're
Right.
losing out on points earlier than you would if you're doing the Ewoks for melee
Right.
skew.
Yeah. And I think the pocket is gonna be another like good for gun line. You know, everything is range 3 from each other and it's fixed, right? So there's gonna be a world where you get some early, some defensible people who can kind of absorb some shots. You can take the middle, deployment, trickery and shenanigans, to maybe make your opponent overcommit to a side that you didn't really want to take, and then you basically just gun them down from range 3.
And then, well, anyone else have something real quick?
I think, and this might be, just me because I love them so much, but I think some of these new objectives, as far as Empire players go, I think we're going to see a turn to where Death Troopers are actually going to be more competitive now because they have that gun line capability of extending out their range out to range 4, but then also those are, in my mind, that's my kind of solid unit that's rolling those good red saves. They get a free aim from their standby to where I want to try to get them on that center position to where if someone does come closer, well, on reconfig and use my frag launcher instead. Something a little bit more meaty to take care of some of those guys that get up close.
I will
Okay.
say, expect to see suppression gun lines from Empire make a strong comeback. Also,
Yeah, because I think what is it, either the secondary objectives or the advantage
yeah, the secondary.
ones? Secondary.
Yeah, the secondary. Bring them to heal.
Mm-hmm.
It's potentially 4 points a turn, especially for some of those Empire gun lines that can hand out like 16 suppression a turn or more.
Yeah, so I think so we have a secondary objectives now, in case people have missed it. And if we want to kind of go over that, I mean, those shouldn't take very long either. But the bring them to heal is great for any suppressive type gun lines. What about marked targets?
It's kind of like a bounty.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it's it's basically saying like, hey, factions who never got to play with bounty hunters, guess what? Everybody's a bounty. You get a bounty. You get a bounty. Everybody gets a bounty. That's kind of how it's gonna play. It's an interesting thing that for every 2 I do, to your guys, I have to choose 2 of my own. So obviously I'm picking like 2 guys who I'm like, yeah, you're never gonna kill these guys. They're gonna be chilling in the back or whatever. Like you're never gonna kill these guys. And then you're gonna be like, yeah, but I am gonna kill these guys, and you choose 2 of your opponents, right? So it's like it's cool, yeah. There'll be 4 effectively bounties out there for each player. Bounty hunters maybe are a little sad in that, sad and happy at the same time. So bounty got a nerf and a buff, right? So it's a nerf because you don't win like tiebreakers on these like low scoring games anymore. Like, you don't just like tie someone in KP 1-1 and then, oh, but I got a bounty, or you know, sabotage the VAPs 4-4 and I got a bounty, so I win, right? So there's no more of that, because the scoring is going to be much higher. So 1 extra VP is going to matter less. It's not going to not matter at all, but it's going to matter less when you're trying to score up to 12. However, I believe I read it, and they don't need to live anymore. They collect the bounty,
Correct.
and that is cool. So if you need to suicide Boba Fett for a bounty to grab that extra VP, and and maybe you're playing mark targets, like that could be cool, right? You mark a target and you bounty them like with regular bounty, and you score 2 off of it. I think that there's some cool things that are gonna happen. I think if I'm playing bounty hunters, I'm playing mark targets in my list. Let's just put it that way.
Yep. And then IG-88 one pip just got that much more of a buff, because if I'm hunting him down and I'm playing that one pip, because basically with his one pip I can go over his threshold of damage and still kind of survive, so I can let him, tank a couple more wounds and then still claim my bounty, but I don't care if he dies at the end of it anymore. I've gotten my victory points, IG88 has done his job, bye bye.
Yeah. It's a so again it's a buff and a nerf. I think quality of life is the buff, right? It's gonna feel better as a bounty hunter player to not have to always like play so cagey. I think that Bosk stocks go down because one of the reasons why people like Bosk so much was because you would just patient hunter kill somebody from a million miles away and then you collect your bounty. And he was safe, relatively safe, healing and all that kind of stuff. And then but like you were saying with IG, like the stocks have gone up because now you have a
Correct.
guy who's got a good pool, can really do a good job of just get in there, grab the bounty, and it's cool if I die. So definitely a shift for the bounty hunters. I think to that end, it makes maybe other bounty hunters who people play less likely or less often as a bounty hunter. Maybe like Din. I think maybe Din is going to be better because he's got bounty, right?
Well,
So
Din's got bounty, and he's also got, well, if you upgrade him with it, spray is going to make a big difference, depending on the list, right? But whenever you're going up against, say, a CIS player, and yeah, if they are running a squad to where now there's 14 B1s, and you're getting close enough to where you can use your flamethrower and roll 14 red die, I mean, that's a big thing that I think Den stocks also go up because more people are going to want to use his flamethrower and his 3-pip.
yeah, unfortunately, Boba Fett also gets better for the same reason.
Correct.
It is also,
Unfortunately, he was already good. Now he's better.
it is also worth noting that Secret Mission has changed as well, but it does not function the same as Bounty. There's still a chance to counter it once they have their victory point. You just have to do it before the turn ends. If you kill them in the same turn they get it, then
they
you
have
stop
to
them from
end.
gaining a victory
Yeah,
point.
yeah, they have to. It's collected at the end of the battle round in the turn that they've scored the secret mission. So yeah, they which is a shame, I think, personally. But I think the reason why they did that was because some of these deployments are so aggressively close that there might be this world where you're just like, all right, my last deploy is Padme over here. Wait, you were cross deploying me the whole game, and I just throw Padme over here, and she's just gonna walk over there. She'll grab me a victory point, and because she's no longer the exemplar bot, you're cool just having her run over there and grab you a victory point, and not sticking with the rest of your army. You're really not giving up what you used to give up to do that type of thing. So, same with R2D2, right? Same thing there. So yeah, it's changed. I'm wondering if that one needed to do that. I'm a little curious if that one was necessary, given that bounty is just immediately claimed forever. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then we also have sweep and clear. Once per round, an enemy unit is defeated by an attack made by a friendly unit. That friendly unit's controlling player may mark one of their unmarked spaces down below. So, what do you think? What might benefit from this?
I don't know. Honestly, it's one of those. I think it's one of those like. This one matters more about what objective we're playing, right? Because like you can't score killing something in a friendly territory if there's no incentive for them to go into your friendly territory, right? Like, right? Like, I mean, you look at like the close the pocket. In what world would you ever even like? There's no reason to go into your, and then in some of them you have to, like just by nature, right? Intercept signals. It's like you want to go over to the other, like it's important, or breakthrough, right? You want to go to the other person's zone. So you'll have both plenty of opportunity. So I think that this is where the ban system, which we haven't really covered exactly yet, but the bandpass steal is going to matter a lot, because I think sweep and clear on some maps is just going to be so easy, and then on some it's just going to be it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, we'll talk
Strike
about
Kings,
the.
watch out for bombard cards.
Oh yeah, we can. Yeah, with the bomb. Yeah, that actually would make it a huge difference with the bombard cards, because of the fact that you can get them inside the deployment zone. What about surface scan? I know that. I don't know what that one is gonna benefit the most right now.
I don't remember this one off the top of my head. I got to reread it. I guess that's a good one for people with bringing a lot of snipers and stuff, right? Because you just you want the snipers to be still like contributing and doing something. If I'm reading that right? And you don't want your enemy getting your scanners. Am I reading that right? So it's like,
Yeah, you don't want your enemy to be contesting your scanners, because then they score 2 victory points.
right. So snipers are great, right? Because you can be kind of off doing your own thing. Your opponent's gonna have a hard time contesting your scanner. Yeah. That's my take on it.
Okay. And then destroy the enemy base.
Let me reread to make sure I remember it right. It's got the bomb one, right?
Makes me, if you got
Yeah.
this with the bunker one, it makes me think of that
Oh my God, yeah.
old video game meme, all your base belong to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, melee skews, speeder skews, or tauntauns. Since anything can use or claim now, so there's no vehicles can now claim objectives. So your bus now has hands.
Yeah,
So
I didn't think about
no,
that.
I think vehicles probably would be great for this.
And
yeah,
and
and
then
I'm wondering if this is why they made speeders like all go up, because like certain ones of these you could just like, because it doesn't say troopers or anything, right? So you can just say, okay, my speeder's got a bomb, zippity zoo, he's across the board, and boom, blow up your thing.
Because that's 4 victory points right there.
Once though, right? Because then
Yeah.
you blow it up and it's gone forever. So it's four VPs one time deal. But I think that's a big deal because we're scoring up to 12, right? The game ends early if you score 12 and your opponent didn't also have 12. Well, it ends early anyways. It's just you would go to kill points if you tie, which I don't like. I think that a tie should be a tie. That's my personal opinion. I don't like kill points being the deciding factor personally. I think there's a lot of people who are going to say no, we like kill points, but I don't. Because then, and the reason, I'll just say the one reason why, the biggest reason. There are many reasons, but this is my number one. It's because when I get down to like just a unit leader, and then I have that guy go run behind a rock and just like kind of chill the rest of the game, like that's a tactically good thing to do because it denies kill points, but it's like it doesn't feel like heroic and like Star Wars to me, right? To have the guy just go and be a deserter and go run behind the rock, especially a clone, right? Like my clones should not be running behind a rock because he's down to the unit leader. It just feels a little too gamey.
I do think we'll bring up a dead game here. I do think Armada's kill points tiebreaker is the best kill point oriented tiebreaker out there. Essentially, it's the difference in amount of kill points that both sides have that determines how many on a sliding scale both players get. So
Okay.
And,
That,
and
that I mean,
then
I definitely am open to other options, but yeah, I would just say that you know, some of these while we're on the subject of VPs, I think when you're scoring up to 12, and if you know, and we were looking at some of these cards, usually you're either going to be very much tying with your opponent, like for certain of the objectives. Like there's, if you read through them, there's very much a couple of them where it's like if I hold 3 and you hold 3, and then we're both like scaling exactly the same the whole way on primary VPs, and secondaries are going to matter the most, and that's going to be the only way that you're going to really edge out against your opponent. And then I think in a couple of these other objective ones where no, there's definitely an odd number of points being gathered each round. I'm going to create deficit. Think of like intercept the transmissions, right? Where like, you know, old intercept the transmissions, right? Where like on rounds 2, 4, and 6, you were creating a deficit for your opponent to like try to climb back out of. Some of them do that, and those are the ones where I think you can spike, right? So if I get an early lead and then I, do this destroy enemy base and grab a, dunk for 4, I could just end the game on round 3 and we don't even go into round 4 because I've already got my 12 points potentially or something like that. I think that that's going to be rare, but it's going to be something people are going to watch out for.
and then we have one last left. It's a Recon mission. What do you think is actually going to probably benefit the most?
Wasn't that the?
No, that was a service
That's
scan.
that's the scanner
There's
one,
two
right?
scanners.
Oh, more scanners. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
more
we got so
scanners.
many. All right, and we're scanning a little of this, scanning a little of that.
While Kyler's reading that, anything that hands out a token is now range 2, not just range 1. So field scanner, binocs, bolster, exemplar.
Clone sharing.
Sharing that rabbit hole. Yeah, clone sharing.
Oh,
So, yeah.
this one you're literally like, it's Pokemon. Who's that Pokemon? Stormtrooper. That is literally what this is. You scan your enemy units, and if you're in line of sight of 2 units, that friendly unit's controlling player scores a VP. So you just want to like scan your opponent. Like that's kind of funny.
Melee skews there. There you go.
Yeah, it's cool. No, it's a cool one. I mean, but again, some of them are going to be low scoring, right? You're going to vary, like Recon, like, there may not be opportunities to score Recon more than twice in a game. Whereas Destroy Enemy Base is like 4 all at once, right? So it kind of, yes, Recon, you could potentially score it 5 times in a game, assuming your opponent's playing really aggressive, scouting up, and you're getting a guy within 2. But I mean, wouldn't the expectation be that they're also getting the scans off on your guys too in that case? In which case it's just equal kind of creep up, this. So yeah, so again, some of them really are, going to be swingy. Destroy enemy base is an example of being very swingy, of dunking 4 points and your opponent, they don't really get anything out of that, versus Recon, where like in order for me to score it, you're also scoring it, and we're kind of both scoring it, and then we're playing a little dance to maybe try to get in range of 2 of your guys while also not giving 2 of my guys with range 2 to you. And so there's some interesting play there. I think Recon's gonna be a lot of dancing and moves. I think Yoda's gonna be great for that one because I can just like very late do a move that gets that guy within range 2 of 2 guys, and he's the only one. So now I can get the scan and you can't. Something like that could be cool. I think certain units are definitely going to be better for it. But range 2 is also real scary now because so many things have charge. So if I'm scanning you, it might be like that meme where like the guy's like looking in the binoculars and the guy sees him charging, he takes the binoculars down, and then the guy's like right in his face. Like it's like, he's charging me, because you're just scanning him for a second, and then all of a sudden he's right there, charged you, and you're fighting now. So I think that's what we're going to see a lot of, like Ewoks and Wookiees doing, which is never a bad thing, by the way. Wookiees
Yeah.
charging.
Well, go ahead, Grant. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say they got that Michael Myers 40. Clear that pretty quick.
And so just to finish off, this is the last thing basically. I know that when you are picking the objectives and the secondary objectives and like your advantages, Kyler, you were mentioning that there is basically a pass, steal, and veto kind of deal. Do you just want to explain that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go down to the picture of the board, it kind of makes a little bit more sense while you're looking at the board. The each player is going to have 3 of the objectives chosen. That's their objective deck, just sort of like what we used to have. But they're going to be 3 choices. They're going to have 3 secondaries that they've chosen, and then they're going to have 3 advantage cards that they've chosen. And these comprise the 3 different decks that I'm going to bring to the table, and my opponent's going to bring theirs. And we're going to do a roll-off in very much the same way that MCP or Shatterpoint does a roll-off, which is you roll a bunch of attack dice. The most crits goes first, or is a blue player. If you tie, go to hits. If you tie, go to surges. If you still tie, because you rolled the exact same thing, just re-roll. Chances of that happening with 5 dice is low. So most of the time you're going to have a blue player. And then once you have the blue player, that blue player says, okay, I'm going to take my objective or secondary, my choice, and I'm going to flip it off, like shuffle my three decks randomly. Take one of the objectives or secondary. It's an or. And then I basically play that card. Okay. And then you put it onto the board. My opponent has to play the other one. So if I play primary objective, they play the secondary objective. All right. And then we both go ahead and play an advantage. There's really no cat and mouse there. You just play them at the same time. So now we basically know what the game will be, but we have 2 pass. We can do ban, pass, or steal. Okay, those are the 3 things you're going to do, and you get to do it twice. So just like in the old system with the 2 bans, we have this ban, pass, steal twice. If I don't like the secondary because I played the primary out there, I like it. I'm the blue player. I played it out there. My opponent played the secondary. We flip our advantages, and I look at his secondary and I go, "Whoa, buddy, bunker! No, I can't play bunker. No. I don't want to play bunker. I can choose to either have him take the next secondary card off the top of his deck and play it, or I could take my secondary card and play it, and basically it overrides it, right? So we take it off the top of the deck and we play it out. And then it's his turn. He does the same thing. He can say, "Oh, I like it," and he passes maybe. Or he could say, "Oh, well, since you did that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna ban, and I'm gonna do a secondary again." And kind of, it's the same thing. We're kind of tit for tat, back and forth. And you do that twice. Ban, pass, or steal. What is the steal? Steal is for the red player. The red player can just go, "I want to be blue player." And so they don't ban that round. They don't pass that round. They just steal. And then of course, blue player says, "Hey, don't take that." They take it right back. And then the person might go, "Okay, well, I'm going to take it back again." Right? So like, there is a back and forth obviously that can go on there, but since you only get to do 2 bans / passes / steals, you do have to be very, very careful that you don't put yourself in a situation where you're playing on a particular objective, because objectives now give you the whole board layout, right? And remember, like being blue player, you get to choose the board edge. So it's very important to be blue player. So sometimes don't get super fixated on the objective. Look at the board, look at the table, look at the layout. And similarly with the secondaries, make sure that you're not going to have something that you absolutely can't interact with. So yeah, that's how it goes. It's just this. It's the same as before in the sense that we're still banning and we're still kind of having this back and forth. The real big difference is that we're doing it blind. When you say, okay, we're not doing this objective, and you flip, you're randomly taking the next card off the top. You don't know what you're banning into. Whereas previously there was a little bit of like, if I ban it, it moves over, and we knew what we were walking into. This one is going to have an element of randomness. So you better only ban something if you're like, anything but this. Anything but this is better. So that's kind of where we're going to be at. And again, the advantage of the blue player is that you get to choose first whether to play an objective or a secondary, and you also, if you assuming that your opponent doesn't steal the blue player from you, you also get to pick that board edge. So it's very powerful to win the roll off, more so than it was before when we were being blue player before. But for those people who are used to having a bid choose, it's no longer the case. Your bid don't matter. Just play as many points as you can.
And you're not starting with anything specific on the table already. Like unless you've already both drew something and put it on there, it's like your first action then is going to be to put something on the board.
You mean in here? So the blue player chooses the primary objective or the secondary objective, and they start the process. So yeah, you walk up to a blank table. Yeah, that's a good question because the that is a part of the advantage of winning the roll-off, is that you get to start and say, I like my primaries a lot. I'm going to play the primary out there, and I'm okay with my opponent getting their secondary as being the starting secondary. But it is random. You do shuffle your objectives, right? I'm getting a random one of my three, and he's going to get a random one of his three secondaries in that instance. And then again, a random advantage. I will say, as a small criticism, I was very disappointed. I thought when I was seeing this system, and I wasn't listening to the stream all that well, I could have swore that the advantage was a card that you play, right? Like after seeing the primary and the secondary, that you would be like, haha, and then you get to play a good secondary that goes into that or whatever. Like, and that's a choice thing. And I really wish that they had done that. I really wish that the advantage cards were like, up like I play this advantage card, right? Like, and I choose it based off of, and then we go into the banning and all those kinds of things. Having no control over what's coming off the top of each of the decks at any given point is going to mean some very, very salty games where you're like, man, like I banned this into something else that's just as equally as bad, and then I ban into the next one, right? And then my opponent, okay, this is worth talking about. If you ban all the cards, like all out of somebody's deck, right? They shuffle that deck, and then they can keep. So like, you can't just completely ban out someone's let's say I play my primary card. My opponent can't force me to replace the top card with my next primary, and then force me to do the next primary, and then I don't have any more primary cards left. Like, if it gets banned again and I'm chosen, like if I chose myself as one of those bans, I shuffle the three and then I put the next one out. That's a weird thing that was in the document, where it said, like, if you ban the last one of that person's objectives, they shuffle them back up, and then they deal the next one. So there's no world where you just like completely ban out your opponent's whole ability to like use their primary cards. Maybe that's a good thing, but I would have thought that to solve that problem, you just make each player pick 4. Then we wouldn't have been in the world where you could ban out all of the cards or something. Or maybe the contingency was that if your opponent has no more cards, then it automatically goes over to you or something. I don't know. I hope that the game designers have put a lot of thought into it, and that winds up being the best thing. But I think that this is going to create some good randomized gameplay, but also there's going to be some real unfortunate scenarios where there's just nothing you can do with the hand that was dealt, and because of the randomness of it, you may just not be able to make it better. Potentially,
Well,
I don't know.
Well, yeah, no, I'm excited for it.
I gotta play it to know.
Yeah.
Sorry, so quick question about this. So you start off, blue decides, do I want to put objective or secondary on the board, and then you both put an advantage down. You can then replace your second or your card with what they had put down first, so that at least for the second, it's both of your things.
No. It's always like a replacement. Just I think of it as like
But I
playing.
mean, like if you put your say, like you have the objective, they have the secondary, then your blue player, so it goes to you. So you can then put your secondary down. So at least for the moment, it's both your objective and your secondary.
Yeah, that. There's a world where that can happen. If your opponent wants to make you deal from your deck, they can do that, I believe. Trying to find the actual page.
It's page 19.
Thanks.
Because it also has it to where, like, this is why, like, it's a little weird, because later on it says, like, you can reveal the top card of your advantage deck, or you can have your opponent reveal the top card of their advantage deck, but you can't have them reveal their objective or secondary, so that's why it just seemed like it reads like an AMG rating.
Yeah, so I can reveal the top card of my objective deck, my secondary deck, my advantage deck, or I can veto my opponent's advantage card and make them do their next advantage. So yes, there is a world where we are playing my primary, my secondary, very easily. Because my opponent, right? So if I'm blue player, right, and I play my primary, he plays the secondary, we both play an advantage, and then I get the first ban, and I ban your secondary with mine. Now it's me, and me, with mine. And then he goes, oh, well, no, I don't want to play that. And then, so yeah, it goes back and forth. I mean, that's always a possibility. Or if he's like, oh, I'm okay with your primary and your secondary, but you know what? I'm not okay with my advantage card. He can just ban his own advantage card and get the next one. And then if you're like, well, it's mine, and so you're like pass, and then he's like, okay, well, I'll take blue player, right?
Yeah.
Like we're gonna see that a lot, right? Like if your opponent is okay with your primary and your secondary deck, like there's gonna be a lot of like red player just steals blue player, and then you begin the game.
In my
It's gonna
head,
be
that just
wild.
defeats the purpose of what they said in one of their statements again.
Yeah, no, like I said, the system. I think I want to get my hands on it. I actually what I intend to do too is I actually intend to go through like 3 or 4 iterations of this in my next game night on Thursday. I'm gonna go with my buddies, and we're just gonna do a couple ban phases, and we're gonna play it out. Be like, how do you think this would have felt like, and then we'll just talk about like kind of like a hypothetical. How would this game do you think would have played out? And then we're not going to play that game out. We're going to go, okay, now let's go back to the picks and bans, and let's see if we can make that more interesting the next time, right? Use our decks, try it out. Because I think that this is what a lot of players, I encourage people to do is you want to. I actually got this from another video, so it's not my idea, I share the idea, but it's not my words. They said try to break it, right? Basically, when new systems come out, try to break it, right? Or especially early on, and then provide that feedback, right, in a constructive way to AMG. Like if we figure out that like this system always results in red player stealing the blue token, and it's like, then if that's like where 90% of these veto sessions end up in a practical sense, that's good feedback that you can give them to be like, hey, I don't know if you guys know this, but like because there's so few objectives, most of the time my opponent's really cool with it, and then rolling and getting blue player didn't do anything. He's just going to steal it from me on the second veto. I'm never playing blue player if I win the roll off. And that maybe and that could be good feedback for AMG or something like. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, by the way. Obviously, I'm just trying to throw out the hypothetical. So break the system, find the areas where it doesn't work, and then collect that data and give it to him as feedback. And that's what me and my friends are going to do. We're going to do probably 4 or 5 rounds of this banning thing, talking about who would that have been good for, what do you think it would have mattered, and then eventually we'll get tired of doing that. We'll play a real game of it and see how it goes. But I think that this system needs to get extensive testing to truly know how how it plays out. And I don't think that if you just do this once and then start playing your first game, I don't think that's going to do it justice. I probably encourage people to give it a 4 or 5 bans and, you know, like give it a couple iterations and then say, okay, the next one is real. Then we're going to play, right? Get used to what the banning looks like. You know, kind of like a you know, getting warmed up before a workout, right? Warm up with this system and then start the game.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that is a great, you know, great way to test out what we're going to be doing, and I think a great way to get used to the bands and how to kind of get your advantage the best you can. But we've got to wrap it up there. And I know the next video that we're going to do, we're going to talk about the new units that are out and kind of like our takes on it and maybe some ideas. And if there's anything rule-wise that we left out, or if there's anything else that we want to add, we will add to it. But that is going to be it for today. Any other just like last things that you guys wanted to shout out?
I'm going to play more wikis.
Give it a chance,
Um,
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think bouncing off of Graham, that's the biggest thing. Most of the initial feedback and I guess overall shock has been kind of not taken in the best way. You know, I can't recall how many posts I saw that first day of stream of Mini Stravaganza on Thursday where they were like, "Oh, Legion's dead," and it's like, no, it's different, but different's not always necessarily a bad thing. And I believe a lot of the changes, kind of like we discussed, some of them backfired because some of them aren't necessarily speeding up the game. But I think for the most part, it is trying to speed up the game and trying to break some of the things that were considered broken. But all in all, yeah, let's give it a little bit and kind of like Kyler was saying, try to break the system and then not just provide the feedback like, oh, this is crap, but do it in a constructive manner to where it's like, all right, hey, we hear you and we're gonna make these changes.
Nice. Well, all right, guys. We will catch you in the next video, and may the force be with you, and have a great day.